For decades, fans and music historians have debated one of the most famous questions in rock and roll. Were the Beatles and the Rolling Stones true rivals? On the surface, it looked like a fierce battle. Two legendary bands dominating the charts, the radio, and the culture of the 1960s. But Paul McCartney has now set the record straight, and what he revealed may shock you. According to McCartney, there wasn't really a rivalry at all. In fact, the Beatles and the Stones were more like allies, helping each other climb higher instead of trying to knock one another down. Behind the scenes, they would actually coordinate their album release dates. Imagine that. The two biggest groups in the world calling each other and saying, "When's your record coming out? Okay, we'll move ours back a little." It wasn't competition, it was teamwork. Paul described it as a very friendly scene, one where both bands hung out together, swapped stories, and even shared music. One evening, Paul was at Mick Jagger and Keith Richards' place, when the Stones returned from the studio and played a brand new track. That song was Ruby Tuesday, and Paul remembers being blown away, telling them instantly, "That one's going to be big." But the friendship went even further. In the early 60s, John Lennon and Paul McCartney were walking through London when they spotted Mick and Keith riding in a taxi. After hopping in, Mick proudly announced that the Stones had just landed a recording contract with Decca Records. Rather than seeing them as rivals, Paul and John congratulated them, and then did something remarkable. They literally gave the Stones a song. That track, "I Wanna Be Your Man," became one of the Rolling Stones' very first hit singles, helping to launch their career. McCartney insists that the so-called feud between the two bands was nothing but a myth created by the media. The Stones were often portrayed as the bad boys, with long hair and rough edges, while the Beatles were painted as the clean-cut, charming ones. But according to Paul, the reality was much simpler. They had the same tastes, the same style, and the same love of music. Far from being enemies, they were collaborators who pushed each other to be better. And in the end, that friendship shaped the sound of an entire generation. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones didn't just change music, they changed it together.